Alright, welcome everybody to week 2, day 1. I'm sick. We're going to be doing classes from home in the meantime. Today I'm going to talk about Europa Universalis while Unreal Engine patches itself up in the background. So Europa Universalis is a simulation game. It simulates the relationships of countries. Basically, you can think of it sort of as a country diplomacy simulator almost. It does combat and things like that, but you can see all the different saves that I made trying to get it working right. I usually don't save scum actually, but I hit kind of a point where I had most of Europe fighting me, and I really needed to do my make my moves correctly. Let's do Iron Man mode. So Sweden. So this is a game that simulates, really, the most important thing is the politics between countries. And you can play any country in the world at any time in the world from 1450 to 1800 or so, which is pretty impressive. And it does a reasonably good job at it. It's not, 100% realistic or whatever, but they have a pretty good grasp on history. And every province in Europe is labeled. They've redone the map several times, like Ireland got redone a while back. But basically, I'm Sweden. Okay, I just started the game. I'm Sweden. I'm making half a gold piece, a bit more than half a gold piece a month. I am very not prestigious. And I am owned by Denmark. So I'm actually playing a country that is owned by another country, which is kind of interesting that they allow that, right? Like I can't actually do a lot of things. I can't declare war because I'm not an independent country. So if I want to do a Sweden run, the first thing I have to do is declare independence from Denmark. And so in order to do that, I've got to send out my diplomats. I've got 3 diplomats. And I've got to find countries that kind of hate Denmark and get them to support my independence. And then once I have my liberty desire over 50, and I can do that in various ways. Moscow supporting my independence would be one of them. Also, if I just build up a big military, if my military is bigger than theirs, then that raises liberty desire as well. Then I could declare an independence war from Denmark. And if I win it, then I am off to the races. I am now an independent country and can do a Sweden run. And so the achievement for Sweden is called Sweden is Not Overpowered. It's kind of a joke because the developers are in Stockholm. I've actually been to Stockholm a couple of years ago. And I was about a block or two away from Paradox's headquarters. And I was really tempted to just kind of go in there and be like, yo, I'm a big fan, but, at the same time, I don't know what they would make of a random person, doing that. So I was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. They're right over there. Beautiful city, by the way. And so this game is very much sandboxy. Like, these are all countries, and they're all simulated, and they all have an opinion of you. Okay, so Africa is mostly unexplored for me right now. But like if I were to, for example, look at Moscow, Moscow doesn't like me very much because we're a different religion. They're Orthodox. I'm Catholic currently, though Sweden usually goes Protestant. And so what I need to do is hunt around for people who either would support me in independence, or I could send diplomats out and get people to support me in my independence war against Denmark. And so the way I would go about doing that is I'd click on Denmark and find out who they don't like. So if I click on Denmark, they hate Burgundy, Scotland, and Poland, and Burgundy, Poland, and England hate them. So for example, I might go to England and get them to support my independence. And once I put together a big enough coalition, I can check the military of different countries. England's got 29,000 troops right now. Denmark is down at 14,000, and I've got 12,000. So I'm almost as strong as Denmark right now. So I would want to put together like maybe Lithuania, who's got 28,000. If I could put together a big enough coalition, I could overthrow them and then start my Sweden is not overpowered run, which involves taking all of the territories on the Baltic Sea. And so when you play the game, you just hit play, and you can set the speed the game runs. And it's not like a turn-based game or anything. It's not. I guess it's a real-time strategy game, except you pause a lot. So every time an event happens, the game pauses. But so you can kind of like increase the speed up and then start hitting play, and you can see that time just runs forward and ships move around on the map. And my armies here. Do I have any generals? Nope. So let's recruit a general, make him the general of this thing, and we've got rebels in Denmark, which is funny as well. So they're trying to overthrow the king of Denmark. So they've got an army of just 14,000 people, and if they come over here to fight them, then their army might actually shrink by quite a bit because they'll have to do a naval invasion. And oh, these guys are moving. They're going to move over here. So at some point, these two guys are going to fight, and then that might be my time to come in and declare independence, and then I could start my run trying to seize all of the lands along the Baltic Sea. And once I do that, I get the achievement, and then I usually quit the game, because for me, this game is a sandbox. Like, you can just kind of do anything. Like, I could, try to become the controller of the papacy, or I could try to dismantle the Holy Roman Empire, which is over here. Like, it's one of these games where you can kind of just set your own goals. And like I said, I normally hate games like that. I don't like sandboxy games because I like having some goal to strive for. But they've got so many achievements in Europa Universalis. They've got it's like 334 achievements. I've got 72 of them, and I've played this game for a long time. So there's a lot of achievements, and I've been playing the game for 7 years now, right? And there's a lot of achievements. Basically, every country has its own achievements. So you have to do a run, for every country on the map. There's one for Poland. There's one for the Mamluks. There's Pirates of the Caribbean ones where you like become a pirate nation and you take over all the provinces in the Caribbean, and that's kind of cool. And you have to like balance all these different factors to get your run done. And some of them are easy and some of them are really hard. So for example, as the Aztecs, they have an easy one. But then you haven't seen games that allow you to select monitors. They always force open on the main monitor. Like Red Dead Redemption, Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, they have a monitor select, which is really nice because then I get to see if my different monitors are better looking. Yeah, and they have an easy one which you can basically do in the first 5 or 10 years of the game, and then they've got one where as Aztecs you have to take over London and Rome and Paris, I think, something like that. It's ridiculously difficult because as a Central American country, you're at a fairly big disadvantage against the European colonizers that are going to be coming over and kicking you around. Basically, I once fought a war for 70 years against the colonizers coming in, and my army sucked. So I just let malaria kill them. I just kept leading them into swamps and letting their troops die of malaria. But they thought they were winning because they kept beating me because all I had were clubs. But eventually they lost like hundreds of thousands of men trying to kill me, and they eventually gave up. But it took so long for me to deal with that I couldn't. There was no chance that I'd be able to invade them in turn and take over the capitals of 3 large countries in the world. And so that run was unsuccessful. I did get. No, I don't even think I got the easy achievement because I didn't understand how to get it at first. Yeah, and so basically you just hit play, and then events happen. My person just married, so I've got a queen now who's very very strong in administration, strong in diplomacy, very bad at military. Um, and let's see, Sweden. So I don't have an heir currently. My guy is 28 years old. My wife's 29 years old. She is malevolent. And I'm infertile. Fantastic. So every so often it'll roll to see if you produce an heir, and the character's infertile, and so it's unlikely he'll produce an heir. And then what happens if he dies without an heir? It's a good question. Like maybe another country inherits the throne or something. Like there's all sorts of dynasty mechanics. Like you can marry into other royal families and get people from your dynasty on their throne, and then you can claim their throne as, well, they're Habsburgs, we're Habsburgs, we're going to force a union of the two countries. And if you get too big and too strong too quickly, then coalitions form against you and try to split up the power of your country. And the run that I just did was for France. And so France starts with just these little blue areas here. They start with about, 20 provinces. And you have to get 100 by 1,500. And that's brutal. It's a pretty hard achievement to do, because every time you take a province, it makes everybody very nervous about you, right? It's like if you remember what happened to Napoleon. Napoleon had a series of coalitions, one after another, pop off on him because he was growing and conquering too quickly. So the game requires you in 55 years to get 100 provinces. And so you end up pissing off literally all of Europe to do that. And so in order to do that run, you have to seize Ireland, which is far enough away that the people in the Holy Roman Empire don't care about it, so that doesn't really piss them off too much. You take Scotland. I took Norway all the way up to here because these count as European provinces as well. You have to have 100 European provinces by 1,500. And yeah, this is all Europe. And so basically by spreading out, I took part of Portugal over here. I integrated all of these provinces here. I took a little bit of Burgundy. And so by basically distributing where I was seizing provinces from, it kind of distributed the hate, because people tend to care more if you conquer lands near them than away from them. And even still, I had 2 coalitions pop off on me, and that ate up most of the time in my run. That's why you saw I had so many save games, was because I was getting really close to the deadline. And it was just man, I've put 20 hours into this run, so I just started saving and just really micromanaging every move that I made to get exactly 100 provinces a month before the deadline. And I pulled it off, and I was just oh, such a good feeling. And the way that you manage it is, again, with diplomacy. So even despite the fact that I had everybody in Europe hating me, that didn't mean that the Ottomans hated me. Because Austria hated me, the Ottomans hated Austria, so the Ottomans liked me. And so I would send diplomats over to the Ottoman court and be like, yo, we should ally against Austria. And so when Austria declared war on me in a coalition battle, the Ottomans declared war on Austria. And if you've ever studied World War One, this entangled web of diplomacy, Poland also hated Austria. Bohemia also hated Austria. So I allied all of them. And so when they declared war on me and marched their army over here, the Ottomans and the Poland and the Bohemians all ganged up on Austria and just sieged down and burned all of their lands. And then Austria lost the ability to support their armies because they ran out of money. And so their armies disbanded, and then all these little states in the AHRE, the Holy Roman Empire, all came after me too, and I'm running around playing whack-a-mole with 40 different armies with my French armies, and I'm hiring mercenaries left and right. I'm going into debt. One of the reasons why I had to restart so many times was because I went bankrupt a year before the deadline. Mason, I'm in class right now. What's up?
Bulgogi, spinach banchan, tofu banchan, curry.
I'll be out of class at 1:30. Okay. And so I went bankrupt, and I had to start over. So I had to disband one of my mercenary armies, And all I needed to do was make it to 1500, right? I didn't care about long-term consequences. So I took out all these loans. I went into debt. I was refinancing my debt. There's mechanisms for that in the game. And hired just enough troops that I could crush the coalition and seize land in the bargain. Because I didn't care about another coalition popping off when it's 1499. It was like 1492 or something like that. I'm like, I'm taking all the land I can, because when you sign a peace deal, the peace treaty is good for 10 to 15 years, and by that point the deadline would be expired. And so I was like, I don't care if I piss everybody off now, and just took a bunch of land and came in over the finish line for 1500. And so this is a very different kind of fun than Call of Duty or even Civ, which Pato was mentioning. In Civ, you're like taking land and building your borders and pushing your borders and declaring war and taking their country through a war and stuff like that. Yeah, this game has war, but it's really more about the diplomacy. Because, like, if I were to go to war with England as France, I would lose, because England's allied with Portugal. And so two countries will beat one country, right? Just in terms of raw manpower. You could go into debt and hire mercenaries to win, but then now you're in debt. And so what I did was I allied Castile, because Castile hated England. And so when I declared on England, Castile joined me in fighting them, and they proceeded to smash Portugal for me. And I took all the English lands, right? Because this is prior to the 100 Years' War. So England has big chunks of France right now, right? And so I had Castile beat up Portugal, and then England landed on me, and I beat up England by themselves. I also called Scotland into the war, so Scotland invaded England. And so with our three countries, we beat their two countries, and I seized back all of the land that England had in France. And I also took the Pale over here, which is English, in the peace treaty, and that allowed me to expand out from here and take Ireland. And then that pissed off Scotland, and Scotland broke its alliance with me. I'm like, sweet. So I attacked Scotland and seized Scotland. And then by taking Scotland, that allowed me to fabricate on Norway and attack Norway. And Norway was, of course, owned by Denmark. And so I had to go to war with Norway, Denmark, and I think Sweden had broken. No, maybe Sweden was part of their country at that point. But then by doing that war, I was able to seize land up in here and up in here. And then all that warmongering pissed off them. They invaded me. I crushed their coalition with, like I said, a combination of allying the Ottomans, the Poles, and the Bohemians. And then seized land as part of that coalition victory. 15 years later, another coalition pops off on me. Again, I crush it again and come in right in under the 1500-year mark. Very exciting run. And you can see from that save directory, like, I was saving sometimes like every couple minutes, because I was like trying something, like, no, and then undoing it, and then trying it again, and seeing what was the best way forward for these things. It's a very complicated game. There's a lot of options. Like, just on the diplomatic screen, you can see that there are asked to support independence. I can start influencing their countries. I could try marrying them. I could try improving relations with them. I can try spying on them, things like that. And this is just as a junior partner. When you're an independent country, there's many more options than that. And really, diplomacy is kind of the heart of the game. Like, there's this web of connections and alliances and things like that, and you want to always leverage your alliances against their alliances and come out on top without pissing off too many people. And that's Europa Universalis in a nutshell. It's basically a puzzle. Like, most achievements present you with a puzzle, and the world's set up in a certain way, and like, there's all these alliances, and Austria will get called into war if you attack any of these small provinces here. Austria will guarantee their independence and attack you. And so rather than attacking like Hesse is allied to Trier. And so if Trier is not part of the Holy Roman Empire, then I'll attack Trier. Hesse will join in to defend them, and then I can take Hesse without having Austria, the big gorilla in the room, getting called in to smash me. And so, like, you look at these webs of dependencies and alliances, you can kind of pick them apart and start unraveling unraveling them and conquering them and maintaining, good relations with the most important big countries and try not to piss off too many people at once. It's a really fun game. It's you can almost think of it as a puzzle game disguised as like a simulation, disguised as a diplomacy game. So that's Europa Universalis in a nutshell. So let's see if any questions about that. By the way, have any of you guys played it before? Have you guys played Europa Universalis before? I think it was available for free on Epic Game Store for a while. I think maybe. And they occasionally release bundles. The whole thing, if you buy all the DLC, it's like $300 at this point. They've had so many DLCs for it. But they also have a subscription where you pay like $10 or $20 a month and you get all the DLCs. Which at this point, maybe better. Galactic Civ, Galactic Civ is more like Civilization. It's not Europa Universalis. It simulates the entire world, every country. You can play a Native American country, you can play China, you can play an African country, you can play literally any country on the world. I did a Philippines run that was quite successful. As the Philippines, the achievement is to conquer the Aztecs. So my Philippine run involved heading east to Hawaii and then into Central America and conquering them before the European countries could. It's quite interesting. Okay, so that part of class is done. Let's now talk about. Actually, let me stop the recording here, and then I'll start a new one with a overview of UE4.